So Algorand, it solves. So that's the company, the team of cryptographers, mathematicians, engineers, so on, that challenged the blockchain trilemma. So let's break it down in terms of achieving scalability. How do we achieve scalability in the space of blockchain, in the space of cryptocurrency?
Okay, so scalability, security, remember, and decentralization, right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
that's what you want.
What's the best way to approach? Can we break it down? Let's start with scalability and think about how do we achieve it?
Well, to achieve it at one at a time is perhaps easy. Even in security, if nobody transacts, nobody loses money. So that is secure, but it's not scalable.
Good point.
Let me tell you, I'm a cryptographer, so I try to fight the bad guys. And what you want is that this ledger that we discussed before cannot be tampered with. So you must think of it that is a special ink that nobody can erase.
Okay.
Then it has to be, everybody should be able to read and not to alter the pages or the content of the pages. That's okay. But you know what? That is actually easy cryptographically. Easy cryptographically means you can use tools invented 50 years ago, which in cryptographic time is prehistory, okay? We are cavemen working around and solve that problem in cryptography land. But, but there is really a fundamental problem, which is really almost a social, seems a political problem, is to say, who the hell chooses or publishes the next page on the ledger? I mean, that is really the challenge. This ledger, you can always add a page because more and more transactions have to be written on there. And somebody has to assemble this transaction, put them on a page, and add the next page. Who is the somebody who chooses the page and adds it on?
Who can be trusted to do it?
Exactly. Assume it is me for the time being, not that I won't volunteer for the job, but then I would have more power than any absolute monarch in history, because I would have a tremendous power to say, these are the transactions that the entire world should see, and whatever I don't write, this transaction will never see the light of day. I mean, no one had any such a power in history. So it's very important to do that. And that is the quintessential problem in a blockchain. And people have thought about it to say, it's not me, it's not you. But for instance, in proof of work, what people say is they say, okay, it's not me, it's not you. You know what it is? We make a very difficult, we invent a cryptographic puzzle, very hard to solve. The first one to solve it has the right to add one page to the ledger on behalf of everybody else. And that's now seems okay because, sometimes I solve a puzzle before you do, sometimes you solve it before I do, or before somebody else solves it. It's okay.
And presumably the effort you put in is somehow correlated with how much trust you should be given to add to the ledger.
Yeah, so somehow you want to make sure that you need to work because you want to make sure that you get one solution every 10 minutes, say, like in particular example of Bitcoin. So that it's very rare that two pages are added at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because if I solve a puzzle at the same time you do, it could happen that if it happens once or twice, we can survive it. But if it happens, every other page, is a double page, then which of the two is the real page, it becomes a problem. So that's why in Bitcoin, it is important to have a substantial amount of work so that no matter how many people try on Earth to solve a puzzle, you have one solution out of how many people are trying every 10 minutes. So that you distantiate these pages and you have the time to propagate through the network the solution and the page attached to it. And therefore, there is one page at a time that is added. And they say, well, why don't we do that? We have a solution. Well, first of all, a page every 10 minutes is not fast enough. So it's a question of scalability. And second of all, to ensure that no matter how many people try, you get one page every 10 minutes, one solution to the riddle every 10 minutes. This means that the riddle becomes very, very hard. And to have a chance to solve it, within 10 minutes. You must have such an expensive apparatus in terms of specialized computers, not one, not two, but thousands and thousands of them. And they produce tons of heat, okay? They dissipate heat like a maniac. And then you have to refrigerate them too. And so then now you have air conditioning galore to add to the thing. It becomes so expensive that fewer and fewer people can actually compete in order to add to the page. And the problem becomes so crucial that in Bitcoin, depending on which day of the week you look at it, you are going to have 2 or 3 mining pools are really the ones capable of controlling the chain.
So you're saying that's almost like leads to centralization,
right? It started being decentralized, and but the expenses become higher and higher and higher. When the cost becomes higher and higher, fewer and fewer people can afford them, and then it becomes de facto centralized, right?
Yeah.
And a different type of approach is instead, for instance, a delegated proof of stake, which is also very easy to explain. Essentially boils down to say, well, look at these 21 people say, okay? Don't they look honest? Yes, they do. In fact, I believe that they're going to remain honest for the foreseeable future. So why don't we do ourselves a favor? Let's entrust them to add the page on behalf of all of us to the ledger. Okay. But now we are going to say, is this centralized or decentralized? Well, 21 is better than 1, but to say is very little. So if you look at when people rebelled to centralized power, I don't know, the French revolutions, okay? Mm-hmm. There was a monarch and the nobles.
Yes.
Were there 21 nobles? No, there were thousands of them, but there were millions and millions of disempowered citizens. So 1 is centralized, 21 is also centralized, right?
So that's delegated proof of stake.
Delegated.
Kind of like representative democracy, I guess.
Yes, which is good.
It's working great, right?
It's working great. Well, it's better than the single monarch, yes. Right? And
there's problems.
There are problems.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for a different when thinking about Algorand for a different approach. And so we have an approach in that is really, really decentralized because essentially it works as follows. So you have a bunch of tokens, right? These are the tokens that have equal power, and you have, say, 10 billions of tokens distributed to the entire world. And the owners, each token has a chance to add the ledger, equal probability like everybody else. In fact, actually, if you want, here is how it works. So think about, by some magic cryptographic process, which is not magic, it's mathematics, but think of it as magic. Assume that you select 1,000 tokens, and so sometimes are random, okay? And you have a guarantee that they're random selected. And then the owners of these 1,000 tokens somehow agree on the next page. They all sign it. And that is the next page. Okay? So it is clear that, nobody has the power, but, once in a while, one of your tokens is selected and you are in charge of this committee to select the next page. But this goes around very quickly. So, and if you look at this, the question really is that it's not really centralized, and because of for agreeing on the same page, it is important that the 1,000 tokens that you randomly selected are in honest hands, the majority of them. So, which, if the majority of the tokens are in honest hands, that is essentially true, because if the majority of the tokens are in honest hands, if you select, say 90% of the people are, 90% of the tokens are in honest hands. So can you randomly select 1,000, and in this 1,000 you find the 501 tokens in bad hands? Very, very improbable.
So basically, when a large fraction of people are honest, then you can use randomness as a powerful tool to get decentralization.
Correct.
So what does honesty mean? And now we're into the social side of things, which is how do we know that, like, a large fraction of people or participating parties are honest?
That is an excellent question. So, by the way, first of all, we should realize that the same thing is for every other system. When you look at proof of work, you rely that the majority of the mining power is in honest hands.
Yes.
When you look at a delegated proof of stake, you rely that the majority of these 21 people are honest. What is the difference? The difference is that in these other systems, you so to say the whole economy is secure if the majority of this small piece of economy are honest. And that is a big question. But instead, what in Algorand, in our approach, we say the whole economy is secure if the majority of the economy is honest. In other words, who can subvert Algorand is not a majority of a small group, but is a majority of the token holders had to conspire with each other in order to sink the very economy for which they own the majority of.
Yes.
That I think it is a bit harder to...
Like a self-destructive majority,
Yes.
essentially. And you're also making me realize that basically every system that we have in the world today assumes that the majority of participants is honest.
Yes, the only difference is the majority of whom. And in some
Right,
cases, the majority of a club, and in our case, is the majority of the whole system.
The whole system. Okay, so that's fast. So through that kind of random sampling, you can achieve decentralization. You can achieve the scalability, I understand, and then the security that you're referring to. Basically, the security comes from the fact that the sample selected would likely include honest people. So it's very difficult to. So, by the way, the security, as you mentioned, that you're referring to is basically security against dishonesty, right, or manipulation or whatever.
Yes. So essentially, then what you're going to do is the following: say, well, Silvio, I understood what you're saying, but somebody has to randomly select these tokens. Then I believe you. So then, who does this random selection?
That's a good point.
And in Algorand, we do something a little bit unorthodox. Essentially, is the token choose themselves at random. And you say, if you think about it, that seems to be a terrible idea. Because if you want to say, choose yourself at random, and whoever chooses himself is a 1,000 people committee, you choose the page for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And because if I'm a bad person, I'm going to select myself over and over again because I want to be part of the committee every single time. But not so fast. So what do we do in Algorand? What does it mean that I select myself? That each one of us, in the privacy of our own computer, actually a laptop, what you do is that you execute your own individual lottery. And think about it, that you pull a lever of a slot machine. You can only pull the lever once, not until you win, not enough times until you win. And when you pull the lever, case one, either you win, in such a case you have a winning ticket, or you lose, you don't get any winning ticket. So if you don't have a winning ticket, you can say anything you want about the next page in the ledger, nobody pays attention. But if you have a winning ticket, people say, oh, wow, this is one of the 1,000 winning tickets. We better pay attention to what he or she says. And that's how it works. And the lottery is a cryptographic lottery, which means that even if I am an entire nation, extremely powerful, with incredible computing powers, I don't have the ability to improve even minimally my probability of one of my token winning the lottery. And that's how it happens. So everybody pulls the lever. The 1,000 random winners say, oh, here is my winning ticket, and here is my opinion up or down about the block. These are the ones that count. And if you think about it, while this is distributed, because there is, in the case of Algorand, there is 10 billion tokens, and you select 1,000 of them more distributed than this, you cannot get. And then why is this, scalable? Because what do you have to do? Okay, you have to do the lottery. How long the lottery takes? It takes actually 1 microsecond. Whether you have 1 token or 2 tokens or a billion tokens is always 1 microsecond of computation, which is very fast. We don't hit the planet with a microsecond of computation. And finally, why is this secure? Because even if I were a very evil and very, very powerful individual, I'm so powerful that I can corrupt anybody I want instantaneously in the world. Whom would I want to corrupt? The people in the committee, so that I can choose the page of the ledger. But I do have a problem. I do not know whom I should corrupt. Should I corrupt this lady in Shanghai, this other guy in Paris? Because I don't know. The winners are random, so I don't know whom I should corrupt. But once the winner come forward and say, here is my winning ticket, and you propagate your winning ticket across the network, together with your opinion about the block, now I know who they are. For sure, I can corrupt all 1,000 of them given to my incredible powers. But so what? Whatever they said, they already said, and their winning tickets and their opinions are virally propagated across the network. And I do not have the power, no more than the US government or any government has the power, to put back in the bottle a message virally propagated by WikiLeaks.